fiction. Yes. All right. Let's talk about fact or fiction. So we've got a bunch of stories here, and we're going to suss through and find which ones are fact and which ones are sussy fiction. The sus among us. I threw this in at the top, and this is our only one. We've got a lot of draft ones here, but I want to start with one that's more free agency. And this is nodding to a few organizations that have been really bleeping this chicken to try to make fetch happen. And that is that Baker Mayfield would be a really good fit to land in Detroit. Embattled, soon to be former Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield, who nobody seems to really want right now, especially for whatever price Cleveland is probably asking for them because they got Deshaun Watson. Baker Mayfield is looking for a new home, and a lot of people believe that he would land very well in Detroit. Fact or fiction? I think this is an easy answer to warm us up, but I feel like the explanation here is what is important.
Do you want to take this, Jeremy, or
Sure.
should I go first?
Unload.
It's you said a lot of people think this would be a good fit. I think it's just Mike Florio just throwing it against the wall after, like, he found out that John Dorsey was in Detroit. He's like, well, John Dorsey drafted him, so he must love him. Like, and they need a quarter. No. Baker Mayfield's ceiling is not that much higher than Jared Goff, if at all. There's no sense in adding another guy who may but probably isn't going to be your future quarterback and is going to cost you extra assets. It's going to cost you extra cap space. No. Stop it. No. Bad
Stop
Florio.
it. Get some
Bad
help.
Florio. I need a newspaper to knock him on the head. No Florio. Bad Florio.
Baker Mayfield's cap hit, too, is like $18.9 million this year.
Yeah, why would you do that? Like, people don't realize, like, Jared Goff's under contract for 2 years, and Goff and Mayfield are pretty much in that same tier of quarterback. You can argue whether or not Mayfield or Goff are like marginally better, but if you're not upgrading your tier of quarterback, what's the point?
Yeah, also, nothing would be more unsettling to me if I was Jared Goff than the Detroit Lions bringing in Baker Mayfield. Because at least Jared Goff can look at him and be like, I'm better than that guy.
Jared Goff, I
And
mean,
you can
it
believe
doesn't
that.
mean anything, but he went to a Super Bowl. Like,
The other side of this coin is I shared this with you, Chris, before the show. For whatever reason, there's an odds maker out there that has the Lions as the second most likely team to start Jimmy Garoppolo in week 1.
I don't get it.
What?
I really don't.
No, guys, it's making a lot of sense. The Lions should just acquire every mediocre quarterback that they can.
Fuse them into one Voltron entity. Jared Goff is the head. Jimmy Garoppolo as the
face.
Actually, I was gonna let's put Jimmy Garoppolo as the face because I don't want his arms or his legs.
Right. He's very
Mayfield,
handsome, though.
Yeah, very very handsome. Mayfield can be like the legs. Let's get Tannehill in here for the other leg and maybe an arm. Like this is let's Voltron this.
Field.
Ryan
Garoppolo
Red
Garoppolo.
Ryan Garoppolo.
Appernick.
Fitzpatrick. All right. Next,
It should be a hyphenated last name with just Fitzpatrick. Like the amalgamation hyphen Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Next, fact or fiction, and maybe we can finally move on from and see if we got fact or fiction here. As once again, the scub being out about Kayvon Thibodeau, and of course, the big thing up there is everyone wants to talk about where Kayvon Thibodeau's head is, if it's really into football, and that runs up against popular conceptions of Dan Campbell, who is all football so much that he probably eats football with his coffee. The fact or fiction I have for you is Kayvon Thibodeau isn't a Dan Campbell guy.
Yeah, so this one is via, I think it was Albert Breer. He quoted an exec. I'm not sure if it was a GM or whatever, but an exec.
Our favorite sources, nameless executives.
Yes, and that exec specifically said, "We're pretty sure he's not a Dan Campbell guy." I'm not buying it. Like I'm not saying it's possible, but I'm not buying it at this point. We talked about it a lot on the Spotify Live, where I just think he's got a bit of arrogance, but what 21-year-old that's about to get paid millions of dollars doesn't have a certain level of arrogance? but I think he's not like a troublemaker. I don't think he's a troublemaker. And that I think is maybe the most concerning thing that the Lions would have to deal is a guy that's not going to have his head on straight when he walks through that building. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is a hardworking player, and I think most people that are around him know that he's a hardworking player. And that is, I mean, I don't have to speculate there. That is what Dan Campbell said is the only thing that matters. If you are a hard worker when you step through those doors of that building in Allen Park, that's all that matters. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau is still that guy. So the everything else is just noise. And I think the noise has just been amplified to a ridiculous point at this part. And plus, why trust an NFL executive at this point in the season? No, I think Kayvon Thibodeau would be fine and under Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell would be fine with Kayvon Thibodeau.
I just want to voice my only concern about Kayvon Thibodeau. And again, I'm viewing this from afar, and it's just a compilation of different interviews I've watched of Kayvon Thibodeau. The way that he comes off as a me first kind of person, not saying that can't work in the NFL. Like, you have to have a very measured amount of confidence within yourself.
Yeah.
And it's different than arrogance, but I view him as I'm going to go out and get mine guy.
Okay.
Versus being, I think, what Dan Campbell's considers a guy who's like all in on the team. Maybe, but this goes to your point that we talked about, Jeremy, on the I think it was the Spotify Live that we did. But I think it goes to the point of, can the Lions absorb a player like that right now in their rebuild?
Yeah.
Like, can they take a guy who might be a me first kind of player? I don't know. I'm obviously I'm not putting any any faith behind an anonymous executive. So I'll go fiction on this as well, though.
Yeah, I'm fiction. I'm fiction on this because A, anonymous source, our favorite source, but also B, like, I feel like the Lions really don't have the luxury to pick and choose who is a fit when you're at this point. Like, I mean, it's important, but at the same time, if like the question is about Kayvon Thibodeau being a little bit me first and being off the clock sometimes, like, you're not really, this is kind of a bit of beggars can't be choosers. And again, you might not have your first pick of edge rusher if you're going that way. So like, you got to be flexible on it no matter what. And I think that's also a good sign of any good coach, is to be flexible as well. All right. This is via Jordan Schultz for this one. Schultz report. I am told the Lions want to continue adding speed / playmaking on the perimeter for Jared Goff, who will once again be the guy in Detroit. So Jordan's calling fiction on the Baker Mayfield right there. 3 players they like: North Dakota State's Christian Watson, Purdue's David Bell, and Tennessee's Velus Jones Jr. So we're looking for speed and playmaker on the perimeter looking into the draft. Jeremy, fact or fiction?
I mean, I think there's definitely a kernel of fact to that, but I don't know. Wide receiver, to me at least, isn't as big of a need as everyone is making it out to be. I think the Lions have guys that they like at the position that they're willing to go into 2022 with. Long term, it's certainly a need, and they want to figure things out. Whoever's going to play next to Amon-Ra in the long term, but I mean, I guess I still have to go fact here, because you have to look back to what they've been saying all offseason, right? You go back to saying, Antoine Randall saying they want to, sign a couple and draft a few, and they've been saying consistently they want an X receiver. I do think they like DJ Chark a lot, though, and I think they're hoping he works out long term. I don't think the 1 year deal is just like you're a bridge. I think they're hoping that turns into something bigger. And if it does turn into something bigger, well, suddenly X isn't a big need at all. Like, suddenly he's a young player. They can lock him up long term. He seems to be happy with the culture here. I know it's still obviously really, really early, but that's why I think, like, I don't think like they have to hit wide receiver in the top 5 picks, top 97 or whatever they have with those first 5 picks. But they have been pretty consistent with their message that they want more competition there. So I guess I'll go fact, but I think there is a little bit of fiction sprinkled in there.
So compliments by comparison aren't really compliments. But if we take stock of where the Lions wide receiver room is going into this draft versus where it was going into last draft, you have to imagine that the Lions are thinking that they're in much better shape than they were a year ago.
Yep.
Right? Like with just thinking about where they were last season and they waited all the way until the 4th round to get Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, they're very much going to be in best player available mode. So I want to say this is fact, right? Because why wouldn't they want to add speed and playmaking? That's how football games are won. But I don't know why David Bell's in there.
Yeah.
David Bell was a big playmaker in college, but then had maybe one of the worst combines and doesn't really have speed. So that would
It's a curious addition.
maybe he could be had in the 4th round, but the Lions don't have a 4th round pick.
I'm not sure what I think of Velus Jones, honestly. Like, he's super athletic guy, but kind of more of a slot guy, and I don't know if that's a huge need for the Lions. Like, they obviously that's somewhere where Amon-Ra can play, and they like some of the guys they have there at the position. I mean,
Cephas
can play a little bit. Who's the guy that they re-signed that threw the touchdown pass? Why can't I think of his name?
Raymond.
Khalif Raymond. They like Khalif Raymond a lot, and he can play that spot. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Kennedy is the one who threw the touchdown.
Oh, you're right. But I actually was thinking of Khalif Raymond.
Khalif caught it.
That's right. You answered incorrectly in the correct manner.
30 points. I'm going to call fact on this just because here's the force equalizer. And I think, Jeremy, you said he's learned his lesson from last year, but I'm never going to forget how very excited Brad Holmes was to try to potentially trade up to get Jamar Chase.
Sure.
Clearly, he wants some options at wide receiver, and I don't think he's done with just Reynolds and Amon-Ra St. Brown as like those big acquisitions. I feel like this is, especially given how deep this class is, it could even, I said it earlier, like we were talking about maybe trading up to get a quarterback. I mean, I could see them packaging 32 and something else to try to, if they want to try to get
jump the Packers.
Drake London.
Oh my God.
Jump the Packers and get Drake London, or if Olave drops that far or something. Like, could you imagine though, too, if you jump the Packers and you get like the wide receiver they were going to take? That's worth trading up. You will admit that as team trade down, you will admit that.
It would make me smile temporarily. And if they got rid of more late picks, even better. But I mean, the other thing to consider here is like the crazy market that wide receivers are at, right? Is it's worth
it's starting to heat up
because it's ridiculous in free agency.
Yeah, it's and again, I think part of this too is you're looking for a specific guy, like again, speed playmaker versus big body, which I felt like for a while it looked like they were wanting big body, but I think Shark kind of fits that role, which we didn't even talk about Shark when we're talking about that wide receiver room right there, but I don't think that changed anything. If you want a speedy guy on the outside,
I talked about him.
I
think Chark's. I think, like I said, I think Chark could be a long-term plan. They just they gave him a 1-year prove it deal. Yep. But I think they like him a lot, and I think he likes it here. So if things work out, I'm not. The thing I'm not selling on is DJ Chark being here long-term.
Right. Well, we've got a lot more fact or fiction, so we'll try to move at a more brisk pace on this one. Everything that Lions fans are crossing their fingers at, Jaguars drafting an offensive tackle at number 1. There are still mock drafts that have Evan Neal going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Jeremy. Fact or fiction?
Yeah, this one picked up some heat last week. I'm not buying. I'm full on fiction. It almost seemed unlikely before.
This is hopium for Aiden Hutchinson.
It is. And I understand Trent Baalke said something about wanting to bulk up the offense more, but they've already invested a lot in the offensive line. I think at the combine he said you can never have too many offensive linemen. Not buying it at all. I'd be shocked if the Jaguars went offensive tackle. No, fiction.
Fact. I think I think the Lions fans have that hopium, Chris, but I think Doug Peterson wants an offensive tackle. I think Doug Peterson wants an offensive tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to say fact.
Even with all the money they kicked to Robinson?
Who cares?
Okay.
Who cares?
Okay, fair enough.
Because for at least a couple of weeks there, I had to endure everybody saying that the Lions should draft a tackle and play him at guard. So the Jacksonville Jaguars can do that too at number 1.
Okay. I'm also going to throw this one in here. We know where Ryan stands on this, but since he's taking offensive tackle, so I guess I'll tweak this. I'm going to call that fiction. I still think you're taking Hutchinson, but I will go to Jeremy on this one because I think it's Hutchinson. But the other factor fiction I have for you is Jaguars. Once again, this feels like Lions hopium. Jaguars drafting Trayvon Walker.
This one I'm a little more curious about.
Because, really?
I mean,
really? I think the Walker stuff is completely overblown.
I don't know, man. There's been a lot more smoke to this one, I think, than the offensive tackle one.
Harry Potter fiction here.
It's tough. It would certainly be a surprise. I'm with you. I still very much think Aiden Hutchinson is the pick, and I think we're just getting bored with ourselves and throwing new things against the wall. But I feel like this one is picked up from multiple sources that think Balky is the guy that loves the athletic freaks at edge, and Balky does weird stuff. He's not a very popular guy because he does weird stuff, but he's had success on grabbing the athletic crazy guy that wasn't the more, stable prospect or the more polished prospect. I think it's probably fiction, but I'm much more willing to believe this one than offensive tackle.
Ryan, do you have anything?
Offensive tackle.
They're taking offensive tackle.
Okay. They might take Trayvon Walker and play him at offensive tackle.
So
he might play both sides of the ball.
If you were to, you think offensive tackle is more likely than Aiden Hutchinson?
Well, do you remember the Albert Breer report where the exec said the thing about Kayvon Thibodeau? He basically said that Balky would probably feel like he'd get bullied for not taking Aiden Hutchinson. Like, that's the safe pick.
Right.
So I can see why he would just take Aiden Hutchinson, but...
And he seems like, based on his reputation, I don't know him personally, based on his reputation, he seems like the guy that would give in to peer pressure like that. Like, he doesn't want to get booed.
I mean, he's worked with some, like, just a-hole coaches, so true. I get that. All right, speaking of Albert Breer, Breer with another tweet out, heard that the Lions like Kyle Hamilton.
I think it's fact. I hate to keep drumming this one up, but like I want to reiterate, I think Kyle Hamilton isn't play at 2, and I can't shake that quote from Dan Campbell where he says, "Listen, I know there are people on the outside that think this guy might not have value here. We don't think about that. We think about, is this guy going to be a starter for us for the next 4 or 5 beyond that? Be a part of this foundation." Kyle Hamilton can be a part of this team's foundation. It almost sounded like he was speaking specifically with him in mind. And so I think it's absolutely a positive. It wouldn't be what I choose because I do think safety is a little bit of a deeper position that you can get good value at 32 or at 34. But as we spoke with Danny Kelly, like, that safety position is starting to get more and more valued in the NFL. People are paying more money for them. And with that, people are going to start taking them earlier. And I know it's only happened once ever. Second overall pick, a safety. It's going to get a lot of boos. It's going to get a lot of negative reaction. It's going to have certain people at certain media publications blow up and say stupid things into a camera. But man, I think it's on the board. I really do. And it would not shock me. Out of all the things we just talked about, this one would shock me the least.
I like ice cream. Miss Lippy's car is green. I bet the Lions like Kyle Hamilton. Fact.
It's true. All of it. Everything. I'm quoting Star Wars here. Yes, I am. Because it's true. They like Kyle Hamilton. I will be vindicated. I will be vindicated through the Ringer article talking about the rising value of safety. I'll be vindicated talking about how how the Legion of Boom existed and how Earl Thomas was the straw that stirred that drink. Yes, safety isn't crazy. Kyle Hamilton is the one sole blue chip player in this draft. I like Kyle Hamilton at the top of this draft. I do. I'm sorry. I do. I know I've been getting a lot of Discord messages telling Chris, knock it off. We're taking an edge rusher. I refuse. Do not yell log off at my house. I will never log off. Kyle Hamilton, baby. True. All right. Next factor fiction. Lions are cool with their linebackers.
Fiction all the way.
Jeremy's shaking his head.
Fiction all the
yeah.
way. I'll scream it to the top of the mountaintops. From the top of the mountaintops. The Lions only have one linebacker signed after this season. It's their biggest need. Maybe they're okay with the guys that they've got now. Maybe Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes are fine as your two starting linebackers. But dear Lord, Brad Holmes talks about it all the time. You have to look years down the future with the NFL draft. If you're okay, if they are truly okay with their linebackers, not just from a short term but a long term perspective, we got the wrong guys in charge. So I am doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down. Fiction, 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 fiction.
For a guy who hedges, that is a bold statement. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember Dan Campbell at the Senior Bowl during the actual game when they had him at the sideline, and I think he mentioned both depth on the offensive line and he mentioned linebacker as just him being very honest and open and probably revealing too much, but at the same time, Jared Davis, Alex Anzalone,
like they don't
Derek
even
Barnes,
have young guys that are
Sean
promising.
Deion Hamilton.
Please, something, anything.
It's
I just
not,
want a Mike linebacker that's going to be a leader here.
It's not like there's anyone on that roster that just needs the opportunity to just show himself as a full-time potential starter. I know
Right.
there's some people that are like, oh, Sean Deion Hamilton, they like he could potentially. No, stop it.
All right.
Stop.
We got time for one more fact or fiction. I think that is complete Harry Potter fiction there, by the way. Last one here. We can make this one quick. Jermaine Johnson, is he he could be a legit candidate at number 2 for the Detroit Lions.
Fiction. No way. No. It's
No
not Jermaine
way,
Johnson.
no how.
No.
I'm also fiction, but I am fascinated by the amount of people that really, really want it to happen. And I guess I get it because it's the whole, jack of all trades, master of none thing where Aiden Hutchinson, short arms, low ceiling because he doesn't have like the bendiness of a true pass rusher. Kayvon Thibodeau has the character issues and maybe some issues with defending the run. Trevon Walker is a pure guess, all the athletic traits, but not a lot of the production. Jermaine Johnson, production, good in the run, good against, good pass rusher, just not elite at anything. So a safer pick maybe than the other ones, but doesn't have the elite high ceiling that I think you need from a second overall pick. So I'm fiction.
I'm going to say fiction, but not as fictional as all of the people on Twitter who think that the Lions should take Sauce Gardner at number 2.
I would be
Is that a
happier
little
with
spicy?
Sauce Gardner at 2
You'd be happier
than
with
Jermaine
Sauce.
Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. I just think he's a better football player.
No, he is. I just don't buy cornerback at all.